Okay, we are going to be reading from chapter 9, the acceptance of the atonement in A Course in Miracles. And this section is section 6, the acceptance of your brother. I wanted to weave in a couple things tonight. I want to start with talking about this issue that I brought up before in some of these videos, which is, does it matter if Jesus ever really existed for A Course in Miracles to work? And I was reading an interesting thing. I actually have this book. I forget the author's name now. I have to look at it. I'm sorry. But it's called Secret Drugs of Buddhism. And one thing this guy says at the end of the book is that it's probably, as far as he can see, it's probably the case that Buddha never lived. And he gives some reasonable arguments. And if you look at the scholarship about whether Buddha really existed or not, apparently there really isn't any really concrete evidence from the life of Buddha that he lived, just as there isn't any really from the life of Jesus. Although there are some historical records that came a little bit later, like Josephus and Tacitus. But as far as Buddha, there seems to be even less, because there weren't things weren't written down back then. This is in 500 some, BCE, before the Common Era, or before the time of Christ. So this little piece I was reading was interesting. It was written by a Christian apologist who was saying that isn't Christianity better than Buddhism, because to be Buddhist, Buddha does not have to exist for Buddhism to still work. Whereas if Jesus never existed, then Christianity falls apart, was the point. And I looked at that as like, wow, that's a great point for Buddhism then, because it's not about the person. It's really about the teaching and whether the teaching works. If it works, then it works. And I do feel that you can be a Christian and not believe that Jesus lived, was a historical personage. Now, a lot of Christians would not agree with that. But let's just say that A Course in Miracles, which is really closer to Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta in Hinduism, A Course in Miracles definitely works whether Jesus was a historical figure or not. So that's one thing I wanted to say, is that it doesn't matter if Jesus really lived. It's whether the fruits, if you follow what the Course is saying, whether you see the fruits or not. And you will see the fruits, because it's not about Jesus, it's about you and your brother. So let's read this section right now. The acceptance of your brother. How can you become increasingly aware of the Holy Spirit in you except by his effects? You cannot see him with your eyes nor hear him with your ears. How then can you perceive him at all? If you inspire joy and others react to you with joy, even though you are not experiencing joy yourself, there must be something in you that is capable of producing it. If it is in you and can produce joy, and if you can see that it does produce joy in others, you must be dissociating it in yourself. It seems to you that the Holy Spirit does not produce joy consistently in you only because you do not consistently arouse joy in others. Their reactions to you are your evaluations of his consistency. When you are inconsistent, you will not always give rise to joy, and so you will not always recognize his consistency. What you offer to your brother, you offer to him, because he cannot go beyond your offering in his giving. This is not because he limits his giving, but simply because you have limited your receiving. The decision to receive is the decision to accept. If your brothers are part of you, will you accept them? Only they can teach you what you are, for your learning is the result of what you taught them. What you call upon in them, you call upon in yourself. And as you call upon it in them, it becomes real to you. God has but one Son, knowing them all as one. Only God himself is more than they, but they are not less than he is. Would you know what this means? If what you do to my brother you do to me, and if you do everything for yourself because we are part of you, everything we do belongs to you as well. Everyone God created is part of you and shares his glory with you. His glory belongs to him, but it is equally yours. You cannot then be less glorious than he is. God is more than you only because he created you, but not even this would he keep from you. Therefore you can create as he did, and your dissociation will not alter this. Neither God's light nor yours is dim because you do not see. Because the sonship must create as one, you remember creation whenever you recognize part of creation. Each part you remember adds to your wholeness because each part is whole. Wholeness is indivisible, but you cannot learn of your wholeness until you see it everywhere. You can know yourself only as God knows his Son, for knowledge is shared with God. When you awaken him, you will know your magnitude by accepting his limitless as yours. But meanwhile, you will judge it as you judge your brothers, and will accept it as you accept his. You are not yet awake, but you can learn how to awaken. Very simply, the Holy Spirit teaches you to awaken others. As you see them waken, you will learn what waking means, and because you have chosen to wake them, their gratitude and their appreciation of what you have given them will teach you its value. They will become the witnesses to your reality as you were created witnesses to God. Yet when the sonship comes together and accepts its oneness, it will be known by its creations who witness to its reality as the Son does to the Father. Miracles have no place in eternity because they are reparative. Yet while you still need healing, your miracles are the only witnesses to your reality that you can recognize. You cannot perform a miracle for yourself because miracles are a way of giving acceptance and receiving it. In time, the giving comes first, though they are simultaneous in eternity, where they cannot be separated. When you have learned they are the same, the need for time is over. Eternity is one time, its only dimension being, quote, always, unquote. This cannot mean anything to you until you remember God's open arms and finally know his open mind. Like him, you are, quote, always, unquote, in his mind and with a mind like his. In your open mind are your creations in perfect communication born of perfect understanding. Could you but accept one of them, you would not want anything the world has to offer. Everything else would be totally meaningless. God's meaning is incomplete without you, and you are incomplete without your creations. Accept your brother in this world and accept nothing else, for in him you will find your creations because he created them with you. You will never know that you are co-creator with God until you learn that your brother is co-creator with you. Okay. As Yogi Bhajan once said, if you don't see God in all, you don't see God at all. Now, Yogi Bhajan might have been a horrible creep. But the quote is right on, and it's right in keeping with what the Course is saying. And it's basically, saying over and over again in so many words that you cannot get to God except through your brother, meaning the other. The brother meaning anything outside of yourself that you see as separate from you, that you do not see as yourself. you're missing it. So it's not even about like, let's take Yogi Bhajan. All right, he did a lot of crummy things, horrible things maybe. Now, yeah, let's say, okay, take that, and then I look at myself. And I say, if I really, if I look at myself by the same standard, I'm also a horrible creep, crummy, done so many crummy, horrible things that people are still maybe traumatized by because of the things that I've done. Now, if I, follow what Jesus is saying here, I start to generalize that to everyone. It's not just about Yogi Bhajan. It's not just about me. It's everyone. Everyone is sharing the same human dilemma, which is that we make mistakes. We do things that we later regret. We do things, and maybe we don't regret. Maybe we keep making the same mistake over and over again, and we do it even willingly. With malice aforethought. We're acting. We are choosing to do that. Jesus would say, even so. Jesus in the Course would say, even so. Why are you doing that? You're doing that because you're looking for love in all the wrong places. You're afraid, and you think that you're going to find salvation by doing whatever things you're doing, but the reality is you will not find it that way, or maybe you will in your own way, but as that quote goes, I think it's by William Blake. If the fool would persist in his folly, he would become wise. If the fool would persist in her folly, she would become wise. And so even the, Yogi Bhajan, maybe he persisted in his folly long enough and he became wise by the end. Who knows? Or maybe he's still at work, still at large in the universe. I want to point out something. So let's just take that basic point. This is called the acceptance of your brother, and that says it all right there. Is don't judge. Don't let go of the judgment, or at least be open to letting go of the judgment. Or at least be open. The open mind that Jesus is talking about. At least be open to looking at your judgments, and be open to not being right. Because you're not right, is what Jesus is saying. Any judgment that you make is wrong. And the only judgment that is correct is the Holy Spirit's or Jesus or God's, which is that there is no room for judgment, only acceptance. And acceptance is remember, it all goes back to the acceptance of the atonement, which is that the separation never happened. We are not separate from God, and we are not separate from each other. We are all one in God. So let's bring up this passage, which is one of those passages we've been going back and forth about. Is A Course in Miracles dualistic? Because it does speak in dualistic terms many times, if not most of the time. Or is it non-dualistic, or as I think Ken Wapnick said, pure non-dualism? And Ken Wapnick was making the point that Jesus speaks in dualistic terms to meet us where we are, or where we think we are, which is in duality. And in the world of duality, dualistic terminology does is helpful, and it might be more helpful than the stark naked truth, which is that we are one with God, and we are not separate from God, and even if God created us in eternity, it does not matter, because we are co-creators with God. We are one with God, and we can't understand what that means. But Jesus says here, which is fascinating, this little section here, he says, God has but one Son, knowing them all as one. It's very interesting. It's reminiscent of Genesis, where God says, Adam and he created them. He created Adam and Eve. I forget the exact wording there. I'm sorry. But it uses the same kind of pronouns interchange here. So Jesus says here, God has but one Son, knowing them all as one. So all of God's sons really are one, and in the collective, they are only one. Even though on our side of the veil, we are many, but in reality, there's only one Son. Even though there's still, even on some level, in this non-dualistic heaven that Jesus is getting at, there might be a sense of there being many sons, but they're really all one. How does that work? Who knows? But what Jesus is pointing at obviously does not work by our rational, linear way of thinking, because it's there's only eternity. There's only the eternal now. There's no past, present, future. There's no rational, linear mode of thought there. So God has but one Son, knowing them all as one. Only God himself is more than they, but they are not less than he is. This is a great line. Only God himself is more than they, but they are not less than he is. What does that mean? It's on the surface, that is a contradiction. So God is more, but the Son is not less than God. So how does that work? It's really just a way of saying that we are all one with God in eternity, in heaven, in eternity. We're all one with God, and that does not even make sense. The words don't even make sense. It's beyond concepts, it's beyond words. There is no other, in other words. Would you know what this means? So Jesus is saying, he's acknowledging that this does not make sense, what he just said. Do you want to know what that means? Well, if you want to know what that means, then you have to accept your brother. And only by accepting your brother or the other will you know what that means. If what you do to my brother you do to me, and if you do everything for yourself because we are part of you, everything we do belongs to you as well. Everyone God created is part of you and shares his glory with you. His glory belongs to him, but it is equally yours. You cannot then be less glorious than he is. I think this is a very fundamental point, forget, this, I started with that point about Buddha and Jesus. It doesn't matter for the Course whether they lived. Theology does not matter. You can argue till you're blue in the face, and that will not matter. What really matters is, does this work? And Jesus is saying is all you have to do is be open to follow what I'm saying, and you will see that it does. And you will see the shifts and the changes that occur, and you will be amazed, and you will understand what he's talking about. And with that, I'm gonna hang up the phone and say goodnight, and we'll meet again soon and read the 2 evaluations. See ya.